Blog Talk Radio.
Archangels, ghosts, and Bigfoot, oh my. It's just another night for Supernatural Girls. Real stories, real answers to life's biggest supernatural mysteries. And now for another exciting interview with paranormal experts from this world and others. Here's your host, paranormal researcher Patricia Baker, on the one, the only Supernatural Girls.
Welcome, everyone, to another exciting episode of Supernatural Girls Radio. I'm your host, Patricia Baker. I am here with my co-host, PK, Patricia Kirkman, famous numerologist, and our resident psychic medium, George Lugo. How you doing tonight, guys?
Great.
Fabulous.
Excited
about our guest tonight?
Yes,
be
I know it. Now, this guest tonight, everybody knows, we're madly in love with Lon Milo DuQuette. He is just an amazing person, and we love to sit at his feet and hear what he has to say. And he has a new book that is so terrific. You all have to run out and get a copy immediately. It is amazing. It's called Allow Me to Introduce, an Insider's Guide to the Occult. And there's nobody that can write about this like Lon. He breaks it down so everybody can understand it, and you can hone in on the things that are right for you to explore further. So we have Lon tonight, the entire show. We can't wait to get him on. But first, we're going to talk to PK because we've got craziness in the world as usual. And we're going to talk about that. And, of course, we want you to go to our Facebook page and follow us there because we've got terrific UFO videos and all kinds of great stories there, and you don't want to miss any of it. So, PK, what's going on? I know you and I were talking earlier, having a big laugh,
I just love the way things are falling into place. Well, it's a 6 universal month, which is about family, it's about friends, bringing people together, doing things together. Well, we saw that together last night, didn't we? Unfortunate. But it's also a month where relationships are made or broken, so we do have to pay attention to that. Plus, we do have a retrograde that's going to jump in the middle of the works about mid-month. So that's going to keep everybody's head spinning a bit. But for right now, I guess I don't want it to sound like I'm preaching, but, you know, last night I watched the State of the Union address, and I was really disappointed in the women. Women, this is the time of the woman when we went into the 2000s. And it's very nice that they dressed in their white and they sat in their area and they all cheered one another on or let everybody know how disrespected they are with what was taking place. But, you know, they were elected by the people to represent them, not to act like little kids having a hissy fit about something. And Nancy Pelosi's actions last night were totally disrespectful for her position, for the women that she's supposed to represent. And I just thought it was appalling. And I know everybody's got a right to their own thoughts and ideas, but I think regardless of what we feel about how the political element is going, it's called respect. And how can we expect other people to respect us, our country, and the people that are working within our country if we treat them in the fashion that went on last night? I thought it was very, I don't know what to say. I'm just appalled by the whole thing. So if it's the time of the woman, then I think some of these women that are wanting to be elected and to represent the people, start representing them. Don't let your feelings about things supersede what you know you really have to work with. Just kind of a thought.
Well, it is an interesting thought, and you and I had discussed earlier the events of last evening, and also we were talking about role models for young women today, and that we'd like to see better role models. Because for women, and as you mentioned, it's the time of the woman in the years coming ahead, we need good role models. We need people who know how to graciously be in their own power and to connect as best they can with other people rather than displaying, all kinds of behavior that's very off-putting and very abrupt or abusive. And certainly we've seen enough of that, whether it's from the male side or female side.
Which I thought was despicable, because if they're representing their areas, I would imagine that the people who voted them in have got to be very disappointed in what they see. O.C. and a few others decided they weren't even going to show up. That's their choice. But they're there for the public to be taken care of and to be represented, not to let their feelings and their emotions be their driving rod. It's just, hopefully the next time we have ongoing, there'll be some of the ladies are supposed to be instead of the acting out and tearing up papers. That's ridiculous. Ridiculous.
Unbelievable.
I can have one, but they can't have one.
Yes, I mean you're bringing up some very important points, and it was a very interesting experience to be watching this and just kind of scratching our heads going, what in the world was that? So, but we need good role models. We need people to help us to lead the way so that women can own their own power in a good way, in a way that, again, is a way of connection for all of us. And that's what we need to strive for, in my opinion, so that we can work together and we can heal the planet and look out for our brothers and sisters and animals. But that comes with knowing how to be someone in power who is also still connected to their heart and, as you mentioned, and is truly representing the people that voted for them. So it's quite the task that lies ahead.
It is definitely going to be interesting because there's a few more months coming up that are going to do a little shake, rattle, and roll, I'm afraid. But, some secrets are going to start popping next month, so let's get through this one and hope to God that they grow up between here and there.
Yeah, and I love secrets coming out. That's going to be very exciting. I love it when you tell us about that, because then these things always do come out, and it's kind of like get the popcorn. It's pretty interesting. So
put your feet up, but don't tear it up.
Right. Goodness. Yes. So again, I want to go back to the tools that we offer our audience, because you offer some great tools as a numerologist, and people can find you at patriciakirkman.com. And everybody can get their own personal reading. You can find out what's coming ahead. But more importantly than that, you get to know more about who you are, how to access your talents, how to minimize the things that you're not good at. And this is what Patricia Kirkman does best. So highly recommend, if you haven't done it yet, you really should reach out to PK. And again, she's at patriciakirkman.com. She's also on our website, supernaturalgirls.com. And we have George Lugo, who is just an incredible psychic medium. And George is great in helping people find closure and other things. You've also helped people find treasures, George, which is really amazing.
Yeah, I have, but I don't know how that happens. It just kind of comes out and it surfaces, and I just tell them what to do, and they do it, and it's like they find it.
They find it.
Yes, exactly. I try to give them information they can use now. So.
Well,
that's great. Yes, and
you've helped me in the past, George. Now I've got earrings missing, so I've got to rely on you and call you tomorrow.
Yeah.
And George can be found at crystalgatereadings.com. That's crystalgatereadings.com. And if you want to talk to me, I'm always available for dream analysis, soul realignment, and just plain old life coaching. You can find me at I'm going to change the name of our show, okay? supernaturalgirls.com.
I was going to say, wait a minute.
Yeah, wait a minute. That's another website. Okay, so supernaturalgirls.com. That's where you can find me, and I'm happy to help you with all of those things. But, again, we want to offer tools to our audience so that you can go inside, learn more about yourself, be less fixated on the things that are bothering you in the world that you have no control over, go inside and find the best things that you can do for yourself. Learn about you. And that's going to be our theme, I think, for tonight. Because, again, we are so lucky and blessed to have with us tonight the master, Lon Milo DuQuette. Now, he is the author of 17 books that have been translated into 12 languages. He's also an award-winning singer, songwriter, and recording artist whose musical career has spanned over 50 years. Now, Lon is an internationally recognized authority on tarot, Qaballah, ceremonial magic, and Aleister Crowley. And he is currently the U.S. Deputy Grand Master of Ordo, Templi, Orientis. And I hope I pronounced that right. So, Lon, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much. It's good to be back. Good to hear your voice.
It's so great to hear yours. Well, we were talking before we went live on the air about your new book, Allow Me to Introduce, An Insider's Guide to the Occult. And I was saying that this book is like the best gourmet meal in the world, where you just savor every single page. You have, I don't know how you did it, but you created this little book that has a tremendous amount of information in it, a wealth of information. So congratulations. It's amazing how you did this.
Well, thank you very much. It was 30 years in the making.
Oh, really? My goodness.
Oh my God.
Well, what it is, and it was sort of a hard sell to my publisher, which was Wiser Books. That's one of my main publishers. But for 30 years, I've really been lucky in my magical career. I never thought I was going to be a writer at all, or to I was just interested in magic and Qaballah and the occult and Aleister Crowley and all of that, and I was just more or less interested in my own initiatory career, and it never occurred to me to be a writer. Once I got chartered in a lodge of Ordo Templi Orientis down here in Newport Beach, I started a Monday night or a weekly magic class. But in a sense, I was just learning magic along with the people that came to class. It was more like a workshop. Let's learn all this together. But along about 1988, one of my lodge members, Christopher Hyatt, who was a best-selling author in his own right, he's I guess his most famous books are Undoing Yourself. He wanted to write a book about the Jungian psychology aspects of tarot, the tarot cards, and he more or less convinced me to co-author a book with him on that subject. And as we were writing that book together, we started talking about other kinds of magic and Enochian magic and stuff. Well, we ended up writing 4 books together in 2 years, and by then, I knew I sort of had the discipline of writing, and when I went off on my own, it was I was going on a little writing career. But over the years, I've been lucky enough to rub elbows with some of the most interesting and significant figures in occult literature, and become friends with authors all around the world. And as the years passed, I've been asked to write introductions to some of their material, some of their books. And so I've been writing introductions and forewords and prefaces to all sorts of books, besides writing books of my own. And I wrote one for you. As a matter of fact, your discovery of Opus, of the classic George von Velling Opus Mago Kabbalisticum and all sorts of other, a big long title.
Yes, in Old German.
You found literally an antique book that was one of the most significant and influential magic books of all time that had never been translated into English, and you arranged to have it translated for the first time, and I was very excited. I even went to London to cross-check the illustrations from the first editions at the British Library. And so I ended up writing an introduction to that. That's in the book, too. But anyway, so I did.
Yes.
Yeah. So I decided to collect these. I've been collecting them because, in a sense, it's truly my best material, because I have to just squeeze everything into just a few pages, and I have to cut to the bone of what it means to me, at least, and so it's the material I kind of work the hardest on, and it's like condensed lawn, and but it's the kind of material that people read the least. So here I am stuck with my best material that people read the least.
Oh boy!
And I thought,
that's a conundrum.
Yeah, so I'm 71 years old now, and I'm thinking, gee, maybe I better get it all in one place.
Yeah, right.
If anyone's ever going to end up reading my favorite things, and
right.
So that's what I've done. And the good folks at Weiser thought that might be a good idea, and so that's what we've done. And so I've called it "Allow Me to Introduce," and it just came out just a couple days ago, and I hope everybody goes and buys a 6-pack of them.
Well, we are going to encourage people to do just that, because we've read it, and it's just, again, it is an amazing book, and again, how you packed all that information into something so small is just it's kind of like
amazing.
the TARDIS, in Doctor Who.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's bigger on the inside.
Yeah.
This book is definitely like that, and
It's
you also,
huge.
of course, have your humor throughout it, which we love and adore. I mean, like what you wrote in the story about Israel, and how you wrote to him all the time, and then you gave this like kind of a eulogy that you finally got somebody to print. It was hilarious.
Right.
So there's nothing dry about this book. It's funny.
No.
And it's also insightful, because you do give people advice about the magical path, and that you have to be able to laugh at yourself, and you have to be able to use this information that you're gathering and as experiential and transforming yourself. And I'm going to let you talk about that, because you're the expert on it. But it's great. It's a great book.
Well, thank you very much. I'm excited about it, and so far it's been received very well. So we'll have to see. Another book came out. A book that I edited the Llewellyn Complete Book of Ceremonial Magic, which is like over 500 pages, and with the contributions of some of the greatest living magicians in the world in it, about a dozen of them, and then a dozen other contributors to that just came out at the same day.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Double header. Congratulations on that, too. Wow.
Right. And remember my tarot deck?
I was going to ask you to talk about that, so I'm glad you brought that up. Yes.
My tarot deck, which talk about my baby, that it is originally published in like 1993, I think, and U.S. Games published it and went through two printing. So it was out and available for about 15 years, and then they allowed it to go out of print. I figured they got it what they were going to get out of it, and it's called the Tarot of Ceremonial Magic, and then on and off for the next 20 years. It has, or almost 20 years, it's been out of print and for sale on eBay for like $700. Which,
oh, my goodness.
I mean, it's a good deck, but it's not worth $700. Okay, don't do that unless you're a real collector. But anyway, I finally... a friend of mine did a small edition of it about 5-6 years ago, maybe a little longer, but it was a very short, small run. And finally, I've got a publisher with my friends in Omaha, the Magical Omaha people, who are the big distributors of New Age and metaphysical distributors, and they did such a wonderful job on it, and it's out again. And of course, the book that went with it, Tarot of Ceremonial Magic book, that never went out of print. Weiser has always kept that in print. But anyway, that is out, and it came out in November, so
now, where can people get that one? Where can people get your tarot deck? Is that available on Amazon? Or?
Oh, yes, it's available on Amazon, and you can go directly to Magical Omaha, too. And but you can get it from Amazon and and it's at a reasonable price.
That's good to know.
It's not $700. So.
See, everybody's got a good deal if they buy it now, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Get it now while it's hot. Well, this is amazing, Lon. It's just adding to all of your good work that you're sharing with all of us. But I have to ask you a question, because in the book you talk a little bit about Aleister Crowley, and he was quite the character. And you did say in the book that if you had known him personally, you probably would not have liked him.
I would have respected him. I'm positive of that. But he seemed like a character that would have been hard to get along with.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Have you? I know you have in your in your life. You've probably met and known and interfaced with geniuses.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I mean, bona fide geniuses that when they look at you, they're looking way past you.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
and you respect them and you're in awe of them. But all geniuses are I guess you could say they're like super artists. Whatever their main focus is, that is their focus. And everything else is secondary, including social skills.
That is so true. That is so true, boy.
And courtesy.
Being so overly polite.
Yes, and courtesy and their own thought of self-preservation. They can be dangerous to be around. And not that it isn't an adventure, but if you're going to have an adventure, you more or less want it to be your own adventure. And when you're with a genius, you're part of their adventure, and usually an innocent bystander to their adventure. And I think that's how Crowley was. I would have loved to talk to him about magic and things like that, but to actually, and he was an eccentric on steroids. So
yeah, he was very driven.
So not only was he focused in magic and everything else, but he was extremely eccentric to the degree that the stuff that I didn't absolutely love, I would have probably been absolutely appalled by. And so that's what I mean by when I say I probably wouldn't have got along with him. But I don't have to face that because he died before I was born.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably a good thing. But you have written about him, so and you have books about him, and it's amazing that he has captured the attention that he has over all these years. But like you said, he was a genius at what he did. Yeah,
and the early on in my career, when I first got a hold of that Thoth Tarot, his tarot deck. I didn't know anything about Crowley. That was sort of my introduction to him. I got that Thoth Tarot deck, and it was just so beautiful. It was just stunningly beautiful. It was disturbingly beautiful. And
agree with.
And when I and that it was the disturbing part that sort of disturbed me. Obviously, when the Paganini, the famous violinist, he just played violin disturbingly beautifully, and he was a technician superior to all of his contemporary violinists. And so much so that they begin to say that no human being could play that well. He had to have help from the devil.
Oh.
And he got wind of that rumor, and so he started to take advantage of that, and he'd show up at concerts in capes and arrive in hearses and things, and just to freak out his contemporaries, and that's sort of what Crowley did too. Okay, Crowley was he was interested in magic, and magic, of course, always had this mystique because it deals with the metaphors of angels and spirits and demons and things like that. But they are metaphors, and the major religions don't see them as metaphors. They take their scriptures literally, and so they don't get the psychological meat of the trappings of magic, and never did. And Crowley was the one that sort of latched on to the work of Eliphas Levi, the famous French magician writer, who more or less saw it was for what it was, which is a legitimate spiritual art form and technique, that if you're not a superstitious person, can be a very, very effective self-transformational technique like yoga or like Zen, and but his contemporaries that couldn't get past the superstitious aspect of it said, "Oh, this is black magic. Oh, you're going to get in trouble doing this." And Crowley had such a weird kind of twisted sense of humor that he says, "Yeah." And so he took fiendish delight in freaking out the freak-outable, and you know, and he thought it was clever, and just about a handful of disciples knew how clever it was, and everyone else just didn't get it. And that has come down to us today. I get emails. I get emails today from people that have ignorantly latched on to the superstitious aspect of misunderstanding what magic is about, and they can find all sorts of justification in whatever their particular brand of superstition is, or whatever their particular religion is, and it's not limited to one person's religion of misunderstanding this. There's lots of religions that don't understand it. And so Crowley has this terrible, terrible reputation. And after a while, there's only so much I can only be an apologist for Crowley for so long, and if a person still doesn't get it, I have to assume they're happy in their ignorance, and I'm happy to change the subject to our grandchildren or something, you know.
It's funny how people react to certain things. When I first started taking tarot years ago, the teacher wanted us to have the soft deck, and it talked about Aleister Crowley and working with that. And I didn't know any different. I thought, well, gee, this is really neat. And different people that would, how could you use that deck? What about the White Raider? Don't you think you should use that one instead? I'm going, but it's amazing how people's reaction is just when you mention his name in the deck.
Well, just by his name.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is there anyone like that now that you know of?
Is there anyone like what?
Like Aleister Crowley now. Is there anyone like that in the world? That level of character. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. Not that someone of that particular eccentric genius. That Crowley seemed to. Well, he did. He felt that he had a real job to do, a great work to do concerning human consciousness, and I don't know anyone at the moment that realizes that they have that universal a job to do at the moment. And it wasn't that Crowley thought that he himself was ushering in this new age. It's just like he was giving voice to what was happening universally with human consciousness, and that has always been the role of. That's what prophets do. Prophets. prophets aren't particularly holy men. Prophets usually aren't nice guys.
Right.
Prophets,
yeah, you're right.
Prophets are usually jerks.
They are. Yep.
Yeah, but they have a couple things going for them that make them unique, and one is that they are alive and conscious and observant at a time when there is a universal shift in human consciousness, and they have the audacity to open their mouth and talk about it. Even if it means that they get themselves stoned to death or crucified and so what Crowley was sensing, and he played this theme through various literary instruments at his disposal. But what he was aware of was the shift in human consciousness that we've seen since the late 19th century right up to today, and it's the result of this shift in human consciousness has caused all sorts of trouble, but it always does at the very beginning.
Sure.
So it's not his fault. World War I was a symptom of this. World War II was a symptom of this. The bomb was a symptom of this. It wasn't caused by it, and because it's uncomfortable, people sense that that's an evil thing. That's apocalyptic. But the focus was something very, very simple. That was a universal shift in human consciousness that was felt all over the world, and it was a very simple thing. Along about 1900, enough people on the planet realized, deep down inside, they realized that the sun stays on all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
Okay, that's all it is. While up until that time, the dominant background meditation of everyone on Earth was that the sun comes up and the sun goes down. Sun is born, sun dies. That has set the pattern for all of our religious worship, our ideas of heaven and hell, our ideas of life and death, and that somehow or other night happens, so death happens, and we have to be magically reborn. So the focus has shifted universsally from the sun stays on all the time. Okay,
right.
This night thing is an illusion. I'll go ahead and go to sleep because I'm set to do that. It's going to be okay. It's going to be light in the morning because the sun's still on, even at night.
Right.
And that one little thing triggered something else in us that actually we're on all the time, just like the sun.
That's fascinating.
So if night's an illusion, death is an illusion, and it's just a shifting of consciousness. Is just a shifting of a shadow, and that one little thing was responsible for this entire shift of consciousness of the human race, and that's what Crowley was giving voice to.
Oh boy. That is amazing. Oh, my goodness. Well, that is a great... see, I'm learning something new right now with you, as usual. This is tremendous, Lon. Thank you for that insight.
Well, it's all in the book.
It is in the book.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, too, I wanted to ask you. Now, we've got your feelings on Crowley. What about John D? Do you think you would have liked him as a person, or would you have felt similarly?
He might not have given me the time of day. He was another genius, of course. He was like the Stephen Hawking of his day. He was like the Newton of his day. Queen Elizabeth's time is what we're talking about, Elizabeth I, 1580s kind of. And in a sense, he felt he had the responsibility of knowing that he was probably the smartest guy in the neighborhood. He may have actually thought he's the smartest guy in the world, but who knows? He was certainly the smartest guy in England and Europe, and that gave him, in a sense of responsibility to do absolutely everything he could to advance the human race, and in general, but in particular, the geopolitical entity that he thought would probably most effectively do that, and that was the creation of the British Empire. And at the time, there wasn't much of a British Empire to talk about. He more or less created the vision of England as a world power, with Elizabeth as the central figure. And he believed in Elizabeth. Well, he was an astrologer, as every good scientist was an astrologer in those days. And he knew that Elizabeth really had a big future, and so he put his money on Elizabeth at the very beginning, and so his whole thing with magic, he didn't really look at it as magic. Magic was just another scientific technique. John Dee's whole involvement with layers and layers, fractals of consciousness that we call angels and archangels, and what eventually ended up as manifesting as this complex Enochian magic technique. His whole motivation for doing that in the first place was to be a spy for Elizabeth.
007. Oh,
yeah.
My goodness.
He just wanted to remote view. He wanted to he didn't want to get on a boat and then get in a carriage and go clip-clopping all over Europe to spy for Elizabeth. He said, "I just want to tune in my television set here."
Smart thinking.
Yeah, and he looked at like everybody else in the day. They actually believed in the historical accuracy of the Bible. And they said, well, if all these patriarchs could talk directly to God, Enoch could talk to God directly. Well, and compared to me, Enoch was a moron, And if Enoch can do it, I can do it, And so he set to work to do just that. And Dee didn't, set himself up as a teacher or anything like that in particular. He had a job to do. He was like the Secretary of State, he wasn't Prime Minister, but he was. He felt he had an important international position in the court of Elizabeth, and he went to work to do everything he could, and it was only accidentally. he got in touch with the intelligences that he wanted to get in touch with, and he started to ask them just normal questions about politics and geopolitical matters that were important to Queen Elizabeth, and the intelligences that he had made contact with. All of that stuff was pretty mundane to their universal consciousness, and it was almost like, he said, well, is my friend Prince Lasky ever going to be King of Poland? And the angels said, you're going to have to understand what we think of when you say Poland. You're going to have to understand how an angel looks at Poland, and how angels look at the concept of king, and how angels look at the concept of the surface of the earth, and how angels view spheres spinning in space, and how angels look at how solar systems are created, and how angels look at black holes, and how angels look at the Big Bang, and everything else behind a manifested universe where there can be a Prince Rupert in Poland. And that's how angels think, and that intrigued Dee.
Boy, I bet.
Yes.
Yeah, Dee says, "Yeah, give me some of that,"
Yeah.
And they said, "Well, we can do it, and we'll teach you our language, and we'll teach you our songs and our greatest hits, and away we go."
Yes, and you have you've done Enochian angel calls that are just so powerful. I know I've sat in on some of them. They're just amazing. And you've also had your own experience with communication with angels where it's been quite profound. So we want to get to that, but first I have to do a very short commercial break. I promise we're going to keep it short, and we're going to come right back and continue this conversation about John Dee and the Enochian language and angels. So stay tuned, everybody. You are listening to Supernatural Girls Radio, and we will be right back.
Pure essential oils, specialized minerals, and a revolutionary anti-aging technology. Astridian combines the best of all scientifically proven ingredients in easy-to-use creams, lotions, and concentrated serums. Astridian's advanced line of products take your skin to a new level of being healthy and beautiful. We offer a variety of collections that address all your skin concerns. The Essential Anti-Aging Series treats and moisturizes your skin for a long-lasting, younger look. The Multivitamin Series promotes healthy skin with high-quality vitamins and minerals. The Sports Series restores skin from cellular damage and stress. Astridian also offers a revitalizing solution for hair and a professional series for doctors and medical spas. Visit astridian.love today and begin your new journey to healthy, beautiful, youthful skin. Astridian, beyond your expectations.
There are a lot of psychics out there. How do you decide which one is right for you? You look for someone who empowers you, who's practical and spiritually connected, who says, here are your opportunities, here are your challenges, and here's a way to deal with them, and then gives you your own toolbox to make your life everything you want it to be. Hi, I'm Corby Mitleid, and that's how I work with you. As a certified professional tarot reader, I've helped thousands of people for over 40 years through my toolbox. Cards, past life retrieval, numerology, spirit guide conferences, and mediumship. Whether it's career, relationships, finances, or your spiritual road, together we can replace your confusion with clarity. And you'll probably find a little laughter along the way. Visit me at CorbyMitleid.com to find out how to cross your bridge from fear to fearlessness and fly. And tell me you found me at Supernatural Girls for a special gift with your reading. Corby Mitleid, the practical psychic for catching your tomorrows today. Find me at CorbyMitleid.com. That's CorbyMitleid.com.
Your property tax bill. Have you seen it lately?
It's frightening. Your property taxes are going up while your home value is going down. It's time to fight back and win. For the real truth about the property tax system, get attorney Pat Quintilian's book, Are You Getting Screwed on Your Property Taxes? How to Find Out and How to Fix It. Attorney Quintilian answers all your questions and gives you the facts you need to fight a property tax bill that is spiraling out of control. You'll also read about what happens to property owners who don't check their property records, only to find out too late they're taxed on square footage, fixtures, and even buildings that they don't own. Is this happening to you? Learn your rights. Buy attorney Pat Quintilian's book today. Are You Getting Screwed on Your Property Taxes? How to Find Out and How to Fix It. Available on Amazon.com.
Are you ready for a new experience of freedom and powerful connection? Would you like a positive, effortless change in your life? Then come to CosmicFusion.com, where we offer the most advanced energy clearing and expansion techniques in the world, with a quantum vortex energy to activate your divine blueprint and life's purpose. When your soul leads the way with cosmic fusion and quantum vortex energy, you can break clear of past difficulties and blocks with the power of the source. With cosmic fusion, the source energy does the work for you. It's easy and effortless. Listen to our free meditation right from our Cosmic Fusion website, the Cosmic Code Meditation. Sign up for one of our interactive webinars today. Come to Cosmic Fusion, www.CosmicFusion.com, to experience an effortless awakening and transformation. Are you ready for an upgrade? Are you ready for a new experience of living in the fifth dimensional magic and powerful connection? Then visit CosmicFusion.com today. CosmicFusion.com.
Welcome back, everyone, to Supernatural Girls Radio. I'm your host, Patricia Baker, and I am here with my two co-hosts, Patricia Kirkman, PK, and George Lugo, and our incredible guest we love so much, Lon Milo DuQuette. He has a new book out, Allow Me to Introduce, An Insider's Guide to the Occult. And we're talking about angels and John Dee and how John Dee learned their language. So they have their own language, and you've experienced that personally.
Well, yes, it's sort of central to the technique of Enochian magic, and as a matter of fact, there are, I believe three sections in the new book, Allow Me to Introduce, that are about John Dee and Enochian magic in particular. Because I did the introduction to the complete Enochian dictionary, the dictionary to the Enochian magic, and I did the introduction to Dr. John DeSalvo's beautiful book, The Lost Art of Enochian Magic, and I also introduced the True and Faithful Relation, which is the about the 1620 book of John Dee's diaries. So there's a lot of Enochian stuff in the new book, Allow Me to Introduce. But the language is very very interesting, and it's so interesting because it is a bona fide unique language. It's a language that hasn't grown out of any other language. And the great linguist, Dr. John Laycock, who wasn't a magician at all. He was a linguist, and he was fascinated with the Enochian language as received by John Dee and Edward Kelly, because it's very rare, almost impossible. Some people say it is impossible to find an artificial a unique artificial language invented by somebody. They've all grown out of other languages. They're very rare, and it fascinated him that these two characters in the 1580s, in just a couple of weeks, came up with a real bona fide language with consistent grammar and syntax and everything else. And so he was fascinated by the Enochian language that D. and Kelly received in the 1580s, and he wrote the Enochian dictionary. And but here's kind of the summary of how it came. Dee and Kelly were interacting every day psychically with gazing into a black mirror and sometimes a smoky crystal, and sometimes there was actual phenomena in the room while they were communicating with the angels, and they kept asking questions and getting answers by means of manipulations of alphanumeric squares, which is how Dee loved to operate. He enjoyed cracking codes. He was a code creator and a code breaker, and so the angels communicated to Dee through various manipulations of magic squares, alphanumeric squares. It's extremely fascinating, and it makes you think that, makes you wish that Dee wasn't the smartest guy in the world that could only figure out the universe through breaking a mathematical code. You wished he was a plumber or a musician or something else besides the smartest guy in the world, because now we're having to figure out what's behind all of these tricks to reveal the universe to Dee in order to reveal it to ourselves. But finally, the angels more or less came to the place where they said, "Look, everything in the universe is connected to everything else. The surface of the earth that contains your Poland and your king of Poland, and and it's also connected to absolutely everything else in the macrocosm, in the greater universe. There's nothing that's not connected, and we've got a way of segmenting absolutely everything from the surface of the earth all the way to the highest heavens, which are just levels or frequencies of consciousness. Just they were telling him just what the quantum physicists are telling us today. It's all the nature of being, the nature of reality is consciousness, and the surface of the earth is just hard consciousness, consciousness you can bump your head on. But they said, look, we've got a series of songs, that create a certain frequency of vibration, we've got 30 of these songs, major songs. And they set into motion a sympathetic vibration in the same way that a tuning fork, you can have a 10-foot tuning fork that plays that vibrates the note A, and when you knock that tuning fork, all the A tuning forks in the room, no matter how big they are or how small they are, vibrate sympathetically with that. Okay? Right. He says, okay, so we got a series of these 30 songs that vibrate like that. And when you sing these songs, or recite these calls in the language, it sets up that sympathetic vibration, and for the time being, your consciousness is raised to that particular level or frequency. And so you could call each of those levels heaven, in the same way as the Jewish Kabbalists or the Islamic Kabbalists that go to the seventh heaven, eighth heaven, Okay. And so we'll teach you these songs, and it's just like we'll teach you the language, we'll create the language, and then we'll give you each of these songs, and they're like our school song. And so the idea being that these angels are constantly, the entire spectrum of these angels are with us right now. They're everywhere. There is no place that they're not. But when you sing their particular school song, it's like they're walking down the street. If you'd walk down the street and you, out of a bar, you'd hear your school song, even get your attention, and you'd go, "Hey, someone's singing that's my school song," and you'd walk into the bar, and you would bring your level of consciousness with you, and as you do that, the magician who is actually singing this song, their consciousness is altered for a brief time to that level of consciousness. And if you do that in a very intended and meditative state, you see a particular vision, a vision that means something only to you, really. But it's your vision that you get when you are at that level of consciousness. And can you see how helpful that would be to a magician who wanted to systematically raise his or her own consciousness, who wanted to actually travel to these progressively higher and higher levels of consciousness and get the messages, information, advice that they need to get from that level of consciousness at this point in his or her magical career. And this has to be something that's accompanied by you taking good diary notes and things like that. You would approach this in a scientific way, which is what Dee really wanted to do, and what impressed him the most about this technique. So that's what you do, and it's almost as easy as getting the book out, making yourself a cup of coffee, put on your pajamas, light a candle, and read the call, and just sit quietly for 5 minutes and seriously observe what's going through your mind. And that's basically the technique, and all of the Enochian furniture and the elemental tablets and everything else. In a sense, those were just preparatory tools to help you explain to yourself exactly what you're doing. But the magic is just you and you reciting the call.
Now, Lon, I'm trying to remember. Didn't you record some of these calls some time ago?
Oh, you can probably find me on YouTube doing anything.
Be careful.
Yeah.
Right, and I think you and we were traipsing around the graveyards in Massachusetts, weren't we?
Yes.
And I was using the first and second Enochian call to sort of trigger my own psychic abilities to tune in whatever it was that we were looking for that day.
I remember, and you found what you saw. You said was many bodies all in one place.
Yeah. I forget what it was we were doing.
We were looking at a grave that had only the initials IT on it.
Remember? The grave.
It was the only grave that had just those two initials. There was no date on it. It was a very ancient grave, unlike any of the others in the cemetery, and apart from all of the others in the cemetery.
Apart from all the others, and it seemed like the other bodies were not in the place that still presented itself as a graveyard, right?
Right.
It was like there's a graveyard here, but the bodies are everywhere else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That was amazing that you picked up on all of that, and that was the result of those calls. Yes.
Right. And so in a way, it's like the equivalent of if it was possible to take a small, very mild drug that for 5 minutes put you in that particular level of consciousness, and while you had that 5 minutes, you actually need to relax and tune in and observe what's going on, but it's not anything that you don't already possess. It's truly just focusing in on what is bombarding you 24 hours a day anyway. And it's just tuning into it. And so at our Monday night magic class, once we discovered the angels off of that tablet of union, which is what you and I used a few years back there, we did Enochian magic 2 nights a week for 3 years, and so we systematically went through the elemental tablets and the 30 aethers, and there's countless angels. They've all got names, which are presented on the tablets that Dee and Kelly got through alphanumeric squares. It's my book, Enochian Vision Magic. I try as best I can to tell the story from the very beginning, so you can more or less follow along to how Dee and Kelly got it, because it took Dee and Kelly 3 years of getting it before they could use it. Okay, and so I figured now all of us, if we're going to use it, we should actually sort of ride along with what Dee and Kelly did to attune themselves to get it too. So I spent a great deal of time showing exactly step by step what Dee and Kelly were doing, and you really start to feel weird when it starts making sense. You say, oh my God, this is making sense. But all of that was just to sort of tune you up in the same way Dee and Kelly were tuned up. So the angel said, now that you're tuned up, we're going to give you this language. And here you go, kids.
That's just amazing. Just amazing. And this is the only time, you said, that this has ever happened, where the angels gave their language to two people and use this to communicate with us.
There's there's all sorts of traditional literature. We've got the traditions of King Solomon as a magician. We've got in Jewish and Islamic traditional literature, which we can't take as historical truth, but we can take it as mythological truth, which in matters of like this is even more important than historical truth. But this is almost within literal human memory. And Dee was such a scientist that he just kept so many diaries and so many notes that we've got more than enough material available to us now. And just in the last few years, I mean in the last 5 or 6 years, the material that would require you going to the Ashmolean Museum in Oxford or the British Museum in London to check out the material with your white gloves and piece through it. It's available in English, cross-reference in clear translations, clear renderings of the material. It's never been more available than it is right now, and the scholarship on Enochian magic has never been this high.
That's marvelous.
That is, gosh, that's just so amazing. Now, you have some advice for people who want to pursue the path of the magician. You want to share that with our audience tonight?
I do.
Was that a question or an answer?
Oh my God! I don't know whether I do or not. I'd say get a real job, you know. No, it's magic's an art form. Okay, it's an art, and magicians are artists. And you could say just the opposite. Art is magic, and artists are magicians. Okay, that it's exactly the same thing. So artists have to do what they have to do. They don't even an artist doesn't even know or care why they're drawn to their art. They just gotta do it. And that's it, and it's the art itself that is the transcendent being, and the artist is transformed by the art. And so ask any musician, they'll tell you the same thing, or painter, they'll tell you the same thing. So I don't know why I was attracted to magic. I just was. It at first it fascinated me. I've always been sort of spiritually inclined, but not religious. When I went to Methodist Sunday school, I couldn't believe grown-ups believe this stuff. I said, you've got to be kidding, you know. But I loved going to church. Mm-hmm. I loved the church, and I volunteered to fold the bulletins on Saturday and stuff just so I could be in the church alone. And so I've always loved God, but I've always just thought religion is pretty damn stupid. And so when magic sort of came my way, and of course in the mid '60s, I was completely inspired by a psychedelic experience where I realized that consciousness, that I really was, my mind, my brain was so much bigger than I ever thought it was, and that actually what I was what I had a glimpse of here was what all of the mystics, Eastern and Western, were talking about, and that plunged me into looking into Eastern mysticism for several years. But when magic came my way, I instantly said, "Oh, okay, this is something I can work with. This is it's got everything I like. It's got drama. It's got romance. It's just perfect for Lon. It might not be perfect for anybody else." And when I bumped into Crowley after I was through being completely freaked out by all the stuff I heard about him, and I realized, and I talked to people that knew him and were his students and everything, and they completely disabused me, saying, don't be silly, Then I thought, okay, this is my art form, and so all of the different magical techniques that I have utilized over the years, and I've never done anything to experiment. I don't experiment with this. The first Solomonic evocation that I did, that I wrote about in My Life with the Spirits.
Oh, my favorite book, my favorite.
I wasn't doing that as an experiment. I was doing it because I really needed to change my life. I really needed. I was desperate to have a dramatic change in my life, and so all my magic hasn't been as an experiment or dabbling in anything. I'm too lazy to experiment. I'm too.
All the books you've I find it hard to believe that you're lazy.
Well, can you imagine if I wasn't lazy, how many books I would have written by now?
Wow.
You slacker, get back to work.
Yeah. So,
Lon, I just have to stop you for a second because
sure.
I have to say again, My Life with the Spirits, it just made me smile from ear to ear, made me laugh out loud, and I think that is one of the elements that you bring to this work that makes it so understandable, because the occult can be pretty complex to people looking at it for the first time from the outside. And you have a way of enticing people to come into that world, and then you entertain us, and we're able to learn at the same time. And that's what's so remarkable about you, in my opinion, and how you present this material. Even in this book, there are funny moments, and certainly in My Life with the Spirits, my God, there were some just laugh out loud moments. Can you share the story of the cinnamon oil?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Well, actually, it was that first Solomonic or Goetic evocation. A very, 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 very young magician. And my teacher, who was Phyllis Seckler, who was the student of Jane Wolfe, who had lived with Crowley in Sicily at the Abbey of Thelema in the 1920s. And part of the literature that was part of my education was the Lesser Key of Solomon, which deals with the type of magic where a magician stands in a circle and he whips up a demon into a triangle and has the demon go do some kind of practical job. This isn't for wisdom or things like that, although you could use it for that. It was actually to get spirits that do the heavy lifting in your life. And so she said, you got to read this book, but you can't do this magic. Okay, don't do it. Just read about it because you're supposed to be familiar with it. And my life at the time was in such dire straits. I was a musician. I had been a musician for 14 years, and I decided to get out of the music business because it was bad for my health, if you can imagine that. And I wanted, my wife became pregnant, and I knew that I just wanted a home life. I didn't want to be a Hollywood guy anymore. And but I was totally unprepared for objective reality. I didn't. I've been a musician my entire from 14 to 28, and so we were desperately poor, and I didn't even have a car. And in California, you got to have a car, and the rent was going to be due like in 2 weeks, and it was terrible. My back was against the wall, and so I said, well, I'm going to whip up a spirit here. I found one in the book here that could give me dignity and prelacies. I didn't know what a prelacy was, but I needed the dignity to feed my little family, you know. Yes. And so for a couple days, I called up my teacher, Phyllis, and she said, no, you can't do that. You're not ready to do that. That's stupid. Don't do that. And I said, okay. But I started to prepare all the ingredients to do it, just in case that I was going to need to. And one of the ingredients is called oil of abramelin, or oil of abramelin, which is mostly concentrated cinnamon extract, like the stuff you used to dip toothpicks in when you were a kid, and it literally it'll blister your skin if you get it on. But it smells like a cinnamon roll. It smells great, but it just burns. And it's mostly that, and a little bit of myrrh oil and a little bit of olive oil. And when you put it on your skin, it burns. So you put it on your forehead just a little bit, and it makes your third eye feel like it's burning, and it's very dramatic stuff. So I had some of that, right? And I got informed that my last guitar student was going to go away for the summer, and so I didn't have any source of income. And I said, that's it. I'm going to evoke this spirit. And so it was terribly hot, and we had this little apartment. I had to use my son's bedroom. So he had to stay out in the living room and play with his trucks. And I taped out a circle with masking tape, and I had the triangle, poster board triangle, and I put the incense in the thing, and I had the sigils and everything I was supposed to have. And I had this black robe that a friend made for me. Then the armpits were so tight that it shut off circulation to my fingers. And so I was supposed to do everything right, and I banished and did everything that I was supposed to do. And but then I had this idea that I remember reading someplace in the Bible that David had his head anointed with oil. So I took this hot oil of abramelin And after rubbing a little on my forehead and made it go on my forehead, I poured a couple of big glops of it on the top of my head, okay, and then I shoved a little yarmulke magic cap on. That is a yarmulke I stole from, or I walked out of a Jewish funeral with it on, and
something to make magic with it.
and so it was a comedy of errors from the beginning, and I wrote up this conjuration, which is pretty damn good now that I think of it. I did a conjuration that took about 5 minutes to kind of recite it, and I used bits and pieces from the lesser invocation of the Goetia with the barbarous words of evocation, you know. And nothing happened. So I did the invocation again, and nothing happened. And so I did the invocation one more time, and I was just very sweating, and nothing happened. And I don't know what I expected to happen. I really didn't. I was just so desperate. I was crazy. And then I started to, I had a little nervous breakdown. And I didn't know that that's what I was supposed to do. I just had a nervous breakdown. And I said, look at you. You're 28 years old. Okay. You don't have a job. You don't have a car. You got a beautiful wife. You got a beautiful child. You can't feed them. The rent's due, and this is your idea to fix things, to conjure a genie. You know, that's your big idea, a genie. And I said, you're pathetic. Okay, you're just absolutely pathetic. And so I started like a chain reaction of self-incrimination. Okay, you're a loser. And I just started to beat my hand with the palm of my hand with my magic wand. I said, and I said, you've done this your whole life, Lon, okay? You've done this your whole life. From the time you're a little kid, you've been snatching defeat out of the jaws of victory. Okay, you really did. You had this great career as a musician, but you really didn't have what it took to stick with it and not let the wild, crazy life affect your work. And and you've done it your whole life. You just, at the moment you're going to succeed at something, you just give up.
Oof, heavy stuff.
And as I'm thinking, and I had no idea this is exactly what was supposed to happen. Okay?
You didn't
I had
know. We only have 1 minute left, Lon, so you got to take us quickly to the end.
Okay, the demon started to actually appear into the triangle. And as that happened, the sweat rolled off the top of my head, carrying all of that concentrated cinnamon oil into my eye. And
oh, my God.
Just as the demon was appearing, it was like two hot pokers going right into my eye, okay?
Oh.
And, yeah. And I guess you'll have to read the book to find out what happened after that.
That's a good way to deal with the book. You got to read it.
You'll not be able to put it down. It's great. My Life with the Spirits, and also get all of Lon's books. They're all terrific.
Great.
But the latest one is Allow Me to Introduce an Insider's Guide to the Occult. Thank you so much, Lon. It is so much fun to have you on the show. God bless. And And good luck with this book, your new tarot deck. I'm going to put it all on our Facebook page tomorrow so people can know exactly where to go to buy all these great things. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This is wonderful. So everybody will be back next week with another great show. And we're going to have you back again, Lon, to talk about the tarot deck. So this is just too much fun.
Yes, let's do that.
Yes. So everybody, until next week, see you on the Blue Highway. Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Good night.
Good night.
Thanks for listening. Tune in next week for another radio adventure with Supernatural Girls.
Thank you so much. That was just great.
Oh, I had such fun. Thank you.
You were such a super guest. Yeah, and I'd love to have you back. I actually wanted to have you on for the tarot deck before we had you on for this one. But I don't know what happened. We ended up not getting it booked in time. But we'll have you back because I'd like you to talk more about the tarot deck with our audience. That would be a lot of fun.
That will be fun, yes. So let's do it.
Definitely will. And I'm going to call Qaballah about you because you've never taught there, right? Just in Omega.
No, just in Omega.
Yeah, and they're doing all kinds of. When I saw that they had Itzhak teaching shamanism there. That's when I thought, well, this is a great place that you should be teaching too. So I will find out what the procedure is, and I'll definitely call you and let you know.
Very good. And if you know anybody at Omega too, rattle their chain again because
I will.
I'm in their system. So.
Well, that's good because yes, I know they're a good source for you, and yeah, and Qaballah is beautiful. It's a large facility. It's really nice, and the teachers that go there really enjoy it. So, plus it's close to me, so I can come up and have lunch with you.
Oh, that'd be wonderful. Okay.
Even better. Yes.
Okay.
So I'll definitely let you know. And we should probably talk a little bit about things you'd like to teach, but I will at least introduce them to you, and you guys can take it from there.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah. Well, thanks, and good luck with this new book. It is tremendous, really.
Oh, I'm glad you liked it. I'm really glad you liked it.
Love it. Just brilliant, as you are. So you take care. Lots of love to you and Constance.
Okay. I'll tell her.
Okay. Thanks, Lon.
Okay.
Take care.
Good
Bye-bye.
night.